Joining us now, he's one of these level-headed senators. You always get it straight from Dave Marsden, and from Northern Virginia. He's like the chairman of the Straight Talk Express. Hey, Senator, great to have you, man.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So, I mean, Sunday, you get up with your family, right? You got Father's Day coming up. Things are going well. I know you have a big family and very lovely wife, right? You get up, you have a cup of coffee, thinking about cutting that grass, and all of a sudden your phone blows up. It's like, you're no longer in the majority. What the heck happened?
Well, Phil made a decision, and I haven't talked to him. And the one thing I dislike, John, and I think we all do, is for people to make decisions about what someone's motives are without ever talking to them.
Right.
I think that makes people, drives everybody wild. And, while certainly the circumstances here don't look particularly good, he made a decision. It was for his family and his daughter. There may be some unspecified health issues here within the family, and certainly this job muddied the waters, and I understand he's refusing that. But while it certainly is unfortunate, and I'm very disappointed, I want to talk to him first and hear it straight from the horse's mouth, if you will, before I go ascribing somebody's motives to what they did. And so I'm gonna reserve a little bit of judgment there, but it sure has changed the landscape down in Richmond. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I think I'm going to cancel any flight I'm about to take. Boy, Henry Marsh went out of town, and we had that revolt, and now with Dick going out of town, we had that one. These guys are into our Expedia accounts. They know when we're going.
That's the best line so far that I've had. You're right. You better your travel plans as a Democratic senator, they better be kept under wraps, because somebody's hacking into your flight schedule. Because every time
it makes you feel important.
Every time somebody gets on an airplane, all hell breaks loose, right?
I'm telling you, it is. It's difficult, but the real tragedy here, John, is the fact that Medicaid expansion has been put at a disadvantage here in terms of our ability to do it. Now, we still have I think a solid majority in the Senate, and we'll see how this plays out. But let me just say one thing here that is really disappointing, and it's disappointing about the history of the state that I love so much. But we voted against in Virginia the women's suffrage. We voted against the Social Security Act. When Brown versus Board of Education was passed, we didn't recognize the rule of law. We went into massive resistance. It was our provision in the Virginia Constitution forbidding interracial marriage that had to be overturned in the Loving decision in 1957. We voted against, our senators and congressmen voted against the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act. You flash forward to the marriage amendment, 12 federal judges now have come down saying that it's unconstitutional, and people are getting all over Mark Herring for recognizing the obvious. It's unconstitutional, and we're about to get that pie in the face. Why is Virginia always on the wrong side of history? Once we do it better than anybody. We're a well-managed, well-run state. It just defies belief. But they'll be lining up in Southwest Virginia at those clinics, those free clinics, to have people's health care taken care of that could be taken care of by insurance. When Massachusetts got health care, their mortality rate went down to either 2.9 or 3.9%, whatever, but it saved lives. And in Virginia, we've just made it more difficult for our working disadvantaged economic folks, and it's just really, really frustrating.
Now, what about the argument, Senator Marsden, that it started about 2 weeks ago? David Ramadan, the delegate from Loudoun County, started. A few other conservative House of Delegate members picked up on it, which is, what we're talking about is creating a new entitlement for able-bodied working people in Virginia. These are people that have jobs, they work, they're not sick, because if they're sick or they can't get health insurance, they're covered under Medicaid. If they're a child, they're covered under Medicaid. It's just able-bodied people. And Ramadan started the argument, said, wait a minute. I mean, the American way is if you're not making enough money, you try to get a better job and move up. If you don't have health insurance, you try to get a better company that offers it, or you try to move up in the management to buy it. I mean, why? He said, where does this stop? Do we give everybody an automobile? Do we give everybody a car? Do we give everybody a Mac? I mean, he said, where does it stop? How do you respond to that?
Well, John, look, this is if we'd indexed the minimum wage for inflation back in 1974, it would be $10.55 today. Instead, it's $7.25. We have 123,000 Virginians in that particular situation. Most of them are not at minimum wage. They're at that $8.50. They can't afford Obamacare. They can't afford to go on the exchange and buy it because that's the prevailing wage that they're going to get. And that's more than, that's a considerable number of people. And that's the way to solve this problem is we wouldn't need the Medicaid expansion if people earned what they need to earn to support their families, and that we recognize hard work. Now, I recognize there are limitations, and you can't just go willy-nilly crazy with the minimum wage, but there are certainly ways to raise it so that people can afford to buy their own health care and have the dignity of not having to be subsidized to do that. But that's not the world we live in right now. Right now, though, John, we have people who are sick, people who are dying, people who get to the hospital too late to save them. When doctors are saying, well, how long have you been having these symptoms? Well, a couple of weeks. Well, you've got congestive heart failure, or your diabetes is out of control. And people don't go to the hospital because they're afraid of the costs. Now, Delegate Ramadan is way off base here. I believe in what, and I'll say it, Bob McDonnell believes about a commonwealth of opportunity. But you have to create a level playing field. You have to give people an education. You have to provide them with some ability to get health care. And in Marketplace, Virginia, heck, it was something that we were asking them to participate in paying for. It was different than Medicaid expansion. And now he's way off base. And, we need to provide for our people here in the Commonwealth. And then once you provide that level playing field, let the competition begin.
Common Sense News Time, 7:49 on the John Fredericks Show across Virginia. We're with State Senator David Marsden. He represents the 37th District in Virginia, which is part of Fairfax County. So let's get back to the budget issue now. You're going back into session, on Thursday? 21 senators signed that. Just as a layman, it looks to me like, once again, State Senator Charles Cogan broke with you guys, signed the letter with the other 20 Republicans, which is going to bring you in this session, and most likely they're going to be able to then decouple the Medicaid expansion opportunity from the state budget. Once they do that, are you going to be in favor of having a special section to really have a full debate on Medicaid expansion, Senator, without tying it to the budget and the government shutdown?
Well, we're going to have to see how it plays out. Emmett Hanger and Senator Watkins and Senator Stosh have been on the side of Medicaid expansion, and with the loss of Senator Puckett, and even if Senator Colgan goes the other way, we still have some leverage here to get something done. This is just going to be such a tragic error for Virginians. John, I had a Republicans-only town hall meeting this past Saturday. I robocalled every one of my Republican constituents, had 3 Board of Supervisors members send out to their list, had delegates Albo and Lemunion send out to their list, come on out and see Senator Marsden, and to hear what people had to say.
Really?
And it was an interesting thing. There were 42 people there who they were for the Americans for Prosperity, and
right.
And they were hepped up about this, and they're very concerned, with all of this Medicaid expansion that the federal government just can't afford it. And I understand and get that. We're in huge amount of debt in this country, but the deficit has come down dramatically, and we've paid for this. And Virginia's turning their back on $1.8 billion. We're no longer going to get from the federal government money to our hospitals to provide indigent care. And so who's going to keep these rural hospitals supportive? The very people that in Southwest and Southside Virginia who will benefit from this are the ones turning their back on it for inexplicable reasons. I don't understand it. There's some maybe larger principle at stake. But I tell you, these folks were really grateful to have a Democrat stand in front of them to yell at. And they did, but they were very grateful and very gracious. And so I think this is what we're going to have to do to turn this around, is that we're going to have to stop having town hall meetings with our own folks, start having town hall meetings with the other side, and start getting, sharing different points of view and different information if we're going to be able to turn this around. Because Virginia's going to do Medicaid expansion one day, just like all those other things I mentioned. It's just a question of when. We'll get on the right side of history, but we'll be late to the game. Our only saving grace is that when we do get to the game, we'll do it better than anybody else.
Well, I got to tell you, Senator Marsden, I really got to commend you. I'm glad you told me this story for having a Republican-only town hall meeting. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody that has done that. I'm sure there are, but I think that takes some kahunas. And hey, you give everybody an opportunity to be able to, say what's on their mind. I think that's a fabulous idea. I would encourage you to keep doing that. I'm gonna put that in my column this week, and I think that's a heck of an idea. Certainly, Virginia was on the wrong side of history of school segregation. I had Ella Ward on my show, who's from Chesapeake, last week. She's a council member in this area, and she was telling me the story of and you kind of remembered from college, but then when somebody tells a story in real life terms of how the school district that she was in, I guess the county supervisors just shut it down. They defunded it, so they didn't have to segregate the schools in this county. I guess it was Prince George's County or something. Anyway, she said they just defunded the entire public school system, so they didn't have to segregate it. And then she had to be driven 40 miles to go to the 8th grade, and it had to be out of her area. So these are the stories out there that when you can study them in college or read about them, but when somebody comes on your show and says, yeah, the government just shut it down. I mean, there was I didn't have school. I didn't have any school in my area. Kind of amazing.
Well, we're about to not have hospitals. It's not going to happen immediately, but that's going to be the general trend, is how are we going to afford to provide indigent care at hospitals without federal money. That's going to be difficult.
7:53. This is the John Fredericks Show. We're with State Senator from Fairfax, the Democrat, David Marsden. I've got to go to word from our sponsors. I'm going to be right back for the final word. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Dave Bratt. Are you tired of politics as usual? Your Congressman, Eric Cantor, has been filling the airwaves and your mailboxes with false accusations about my background and core principles. I have spent my entire life as an economist teaching my students the importance of truth, individual responsibility, and free markets. Lying to the voters of the 7th District in order to secure re-election is unacceptable. You deserve better. This is the truth. While Eric Cantor promised to repeal and replace Obamacare in 2012, he actually voted to fully fund it last October. Eric Cantor was one of the few Republicans that voted to give President Obama a blank check with no spending concessions this past January. Eric Cantor is also advocating for amnesty for illegal immigrants. If I have the privilege to serve as your congressman, I will fight to repeal Obamacare, to stop Washington, D.C.'s out-of-control spending, and will oppose giving amnesty to illegal immigrants. It is time to send Washington, D.C. a clear message. On June 10th, vote Dave Bratt at your normal polling location. I'm Dave Bratt, and I approve this message.
Liberal college professor David Bratt's new radio ad is the most dishonest attack we've seen in years. David Bratt is repeating internet rumors and conspiracy theories he knows are not true. There is no law that allows insider trading by congressmen, their families, or anyone else in America. And there never has been, ever, period. Professor Bratt is lying to you in a desperate attempt to get votes. Fortunately, we have a clear choice. Eric Cantor is always shot straight with us. Agree or disagree, we can count on Eric Cantor to give us an honest answer. Eric Cantor stopped the Obama-Reid amnesty bill. He called for a special prosecutor to investigate Obama's IRS abuses. Eric Cantor is fighting to repeal Obamacare and cut taxes to get our economy moving and create good-paying jobs. In the Republican primary this Tuesday, vote Eric Cantor, the honest conservative choice.
I'm Eric Cantor, candidate for U.S. Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for and authorized by Cantor for Congress.
He's a one-man wrecking ball against those crazy Republican conventions.
I came in like a wrecking ball. I never hit so hard in love.
And now back to John Fredericks.
Welcome back to John Fredericks Show 756. By the way, that was Prince Edward County. I think I said Prince George's by mistake. It was Prince Edward County. 756, back with Democratic State Senator from Fairfax, David Marsden. So, David, final word. Republicans are going to take control of the Senate. There's no doubt. They're going to reorganize the committees. Then you looked at 2015. According to my math, you guys are going to have an uphill battle. Comment.
Well, that's that's certainly the conventional way of looking at it. But I think we're going to hit a turning point here in Virginia. I think this year this will be kind of the final straw of this effort to do things that aren't in our best interests. And I think 2015 might be a fairly significant turnaround year. You know, whether you like Obamacare or hate Obamacare, people are signing up for it. It is going to be successful. We need to fix some things in it. We need to tweak it, but it's the way forward. Virginia's just going to have to get on board, and eventually Virginians will understand that. And we've just got to get our priorities straight. John, I asked a retiring Republican friend of mine one time in frustration. I said, what do your folks want? He said, Dave, they just say, don't take away my guns. That's all I want. I want my guns. And, John, until we get our priorities straight in Virginia and that our kids' education becomes more important than our gun rights, that our health care becomes more important than our gun rights, that we're willing to get on board with a modern country that is trying to take care of these things for its citizens, we're going to be behind the eight ball, and we've got some grounds to make up. But it's a message we're going to take out to Virginians in this special election coming up next year in 2015. We've got wonderful candidates who we're talking to about stepping up, and we're going to get this done and get Virginia back in a place where it can move forward instead of trying to claw its way back into the past.
I tell you what, that is an optimistic message from Senator David Marsden of Fairfax. Always a pleasure to have you on, sir. Thanks for being with us.
John, thank you. Have a great day.